Hello to everyone listening or watching for episode 185 of Tree Talk with myself, Jack Neville, and Matt Callan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star. Every weekend we say it has been a bumper weekend, but it was a historic weekend, Matt, and we will get into it. But we have a double Munster final to look forward to after last weekend. And then this weekend, we've the under 20s and All Ireland final, and the Camogie teams start off their championship campaign. So, as usual, stay tuned for all that and more as we go through them.
The impression in the game you get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word court today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Curry. Curry leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it hard.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
No, Matt, it's historic. I'd love to hear, is there anyone listening or watching when we listen back that was maybe at those Munster finals, but even was alive in 1934 when the Limerick senior footballers and hurlers were in Munster Championship action. It just goes to show it doesn't happen very often around here. Now, it happened a few times in the first quarter century of the GAA and there into 1934, but it's been long overdue. And I suppose when you look at the context of it and we will as we get close to time, in 2010 when the footballers were last in the Munster final, it was probably the darkest hour for the hurlers. And then only a couple of years later when the hurlers had rectified it, the footballers were languishing in Division 4. So, I mean, I suppose 5 or 6 years ago, you would never have seen this happen. It just goes to show the work that's been done by John Kiley and Billy Lee and so many more than on top of that.
It is, but Jack, will start off with the history lesson this week because it's 1934 since the last time that both Limerick teams were in the senior finals, and shortly after that, actually, Limerick opted out of the Munster Championship and competed in the Junior Championship, and returned to the Senior Football Championship in 1965. And announced their return in spectacular fashion with a 2-5 to 6 points victory over Cork in the Munster semi-final in Kilkenny, which set up a home Munster final against Kerry that year. And the Omens were looking very, very good at half-time because Limerick were up by 2 goals at half-time in that final in the Gaelic grounds, but the power of Kerry came to the fore in the second half and denied us, what would be only a second ever Munster Senior Football Championship. I think our one and only Munster Championship was it in 1891?
96, so, I think.
96,
well, yeah.
You or I weren't around, Jack, when Limerick last won it. So, I don't think that, that there'll be a certain amount of emotion and, a huge amount of goodwill towards Limerick and Kilkenny on Saturday week, notwithstanding the fact now that Limerick are very, very dominant in terms of hurling, and you mentioned that there at the outset, and what a spectacular couple of weeks to look forward to. As you rightly said, we've the under-20 hurling All-Ireland final this weekend. The following Saturday, we have the Munster Senior Football final. The following Saturday, we have the Celtic Challenge Cup current John Scott final, and the following day we have the Munster Senior Hurling final. So, happy days.
Yeah, it's definitely happy days. And I suppose it was I got to go to the games was a big thing for me, just to be out there, being able to, especially for the footballers, because listening to that Clare game in Ennis when they won on penalties was fairly torturous. Now, we did have to make the choice between the extra time and penalties in the FA Cup final and Thurles, but I suppose there was only really one option there, so we headed up, and we'll start in Thurles because, to be fair,
I'm just wondering, Jack, I can't help thinking to myself, are you and I kind of magpies?
I'd say so somehow, in a way.
Like I have missed more games since last November than I had done in my lifetime.
Yeah, and I
Way
can't.
more games, and but everything is going swimmingly well. So had we better stay away for another while, Jack?
Yeah, that's the thing. Now, look, they got the win on Saturday, and I was there. It was a draw on Sunday, so I'll hedge my bets. We'll see this Sunday. I'll be in Thurles, so if the 20s don't get over the line, I mightn't be at the finals. No, I will go, but we will start with the footballers because it's a huge achievement. It's a much bigger achievement for the footballers getting to Munster final than the hurlers right now. Like, I think that's fair to say, and that's no disrespect to anyone. I think it's more of a compliment to the hurlers than anything. But to be on the field afterwards and meeting the players, like we did when they beat Fermanagh, and I know you weren't at either occasion, unfortunately, but just there's a real intimate feeling to the football at the moment in Limerick. It's not getting the sport it warrants. We saw that with hurling a few years ago. The numbers have increased, and that's just normal. But with the football, it's nice. There was a group of us from home that went down. As I said, we watched the 90 minutes of the FA Cup final, and a few stayed behind. But most of us went back up to Thurles, and the first half wasn't great fare. Second half was much improved, and I think it just goes to show the growth of Billy Lee's side. Obviously, got the job done there in 2019. That was a shock, really. I think Billy even acknowledged that the following year. Then it was Conor Sweeney, bit of magic when Limerick dominated. But in the first half, it was a case of Limerick playing within themselves, even though they are a division ahead of Tipp, because for so long they were the underdogs in all these games. But in the second half, they just showed the team they have become, that they've moved up a level. 1-3-6 at half time. It finished 2-10-10. Like, it was very dominant. Like, Brian Fanning kept the shackles on Conor Sweeney. He showed he's as good going one way as he is the other way. There was just magical forms throughout the field. Killian Fahey scored after 12 points, and very reminiscent to John Galvin's score against Kerry in that Munster final in 2010, where he scored straight from the throw-in. So hopefully more of that to come down the line. But for Limerick, I think it was a case of they trusted in themselves, that they were the better team, and they expressed themselves. And you saw that with Brian Donovan's goal. They went for goals early, and Josh Ryan got a goal. But there was just so many standout players from everyone. I know you weren't there, but I'm sure you've done a load of research. But just after, it's that reaching the Munster final and obviously getting back-to-back wins in the Munster Championship for the first time. And I'd even think it was 2009. I think 2010 they were straight in a semi-final. It's just huge for Limerick football.
Just massive, Jack. And like, if you contextualize it, and I'll go back 4 years, and we go back to the 2018 National Football League Division 4, where Limerick were anchored in Division 4. And the sum total of Limerick's efforts in that year in 7 games was 3 points. A single point, a point with a fortuitous draw with London in Ruislip, followed by a last-minute goal in Martinstown against Waterford to clinch a victory. When you reflect on that, and that's just only 4 years ago, and to see where Limerick have come, right, it's been well chronicled at this stage. They have won Division 4 in 2000. They have been promoted from Division 3 this year. And obviously, a further benchmark was how would they perform in the championship. And like in last year's championship, they had a stunning victory over Waterford in the first round in the Gaelic grounds, and hopes were high that they would put it up to Cork, and probably a bit unlucky against Cork. Lost on O'Sullivan very, very early in the game, I think in the first 10 minutes. And credit his namesake, Aaron O'Sullivan from Palace Green, who came in his place. But you were losing a leader on your team. And you fast forward to this year, and, there had to be 2 goals. And it was a question of almost last Saturday killing 2 birds with the 1 stone. And the 2 goals being to win 2 championship games in 1 year, and the second one to get to the Munster football final. So both of those have been achieved now. But when you contrast that with 2018, Jack, it gives you an idea of the sort of development that has taken place in the squad now. And there's quite a few of those players still around.
Yeah, an awful lot.
But it also gives you a sense of the enormity of the job that Billy Lee and his backroom team have done. It is absolutely, simply phenomenal, the job that they had done. And like it's not very, very long ago. It's only 5 years ago since when over 50 players declined to Billy Lee to become involved. So, like, it just gives you a sense of the better place that we're in. Now, looking back on last Saturday evening, and look, I just want to take up your point about Brian Fanning. And we were talking, Jack, in the early stages of the league about the loss that Brian Fanning was. Now we know. Yeah. Absolutely. He has evolved into an absolutely fantastic player, either in defence or going forward. And of course, the ultimate test was for him last Saturday evening when he came up against Conor McSweeney, who he really put the shackles on. The previous week, he rambled through Cusack Park and got that famous goal. You know.
Yeah. He can go either way.
The Palace Green man now is becoming a bit of a Rye of the Rovers, I think, you know.
Yeah, well, he'll have his hands full the next time.
It was a very tentative first half. And Billy Lee said in his interview afterwards, I think he mentioned something to the effect that Limerick were nearly afraid to go and win it. But by God, whatever he said to him at half-time, any fears or any doubts were banished. And it was a fantastic second half performance. And a fantastic way they closed out the game. And, we've spoken time and time again about the Limerick hurlers bench. Now, Limerick footballers are going down the same road. They have players coming off the bench that are making an impact, and none more so than Robbie Burke.
Yeah.
And I think it's testimony to the strength of the Limerick team that Robbie Burke doesn't have a starting berth.
I'd say Robbie has played so well, he's played himself out of a starting berth, if you get me. Like Shane Dowling in 2018 for the hurlers was invaluable. Robbie was the same. Like, because even a few of us were wondering, we were thinking it was sooner rather than later when we'd see him, because Limerick didn't really fire in the first half. But my God, when he comes on, like, he's huge boot of ball first and foremost. But the accuracy, he finds himself in a lot of brilliant positions because he's not very quick. Like, he's not slow by any means, but Hugh would be the faster of the brothers. But deadly accurate, 3 more points to go with a goal and 2 and a penalty on top of that in Ennis. I don't think we'll see it from the start, but it's one Kerry will have to keep an eye on, that they'll know that he will be coming in at some stage, and if you give him space, and even if you don't give him space, he still will be able to kick it over the bar. But Limerick will look, it's going to be a huge challenge, Kerry, and we will look forward to the game in full next week because it's the week after. But how brilliant is it to say that Limerick are going up against Kerry? And look,
huge challenge, Jack. Clare went to the Gaelic grounds to play Kerry in the Munster final in 1992, captained by Francis McInerney, and they were only turning up to make numbers. They won the Munster Football Championship. Tipperary went down to Cork 2 years ago in the bloody Sunday final, and they again, they were only making up numbers, but there was belief in Tipperary. Speaking to people in Tipperary before that particular game, there was even an element of confidence that they were going to beat Cork, and I think that's what you need. And they went down and they delivered. At the end of the day, Jack, this is 15 players in Kerry jerseys against 15 players in Limerick jerseys.
Yeah,
and I'm not one of those people, and you'll say I have green mist. If Raf was there sitting in the chair now, he would be accusing me of all sorts of green mists and green this and green that and green the other thing. But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion at all.
No.
I think if Kerry are to win the Munster Football Championship, they'll damn earn it.
Yeah, and I think it's a decent matchup for Limerick because Kerry's main strength is their forwards. There's no getting around that. But I mean, Limerick's defense has been unreal this year. Really, they've good matchups. Be interesting to see who goes on. Dave Clifford, because obviously Sean O'Dea picked up Sam Mulroy and did a great job on him in Crow Park, and Brian Fanning picked up Conor Sweeney at the weekend. So look, we'll have a think about that for the next week, and we can discuss it later.
Whatever about we thinking, I think it's Kerry that have to do the thinking.
Yeah, they will, of course. I just put a thing a while ago. Anyone have questions? And I have two from Michael Conway, but there's one hurling, one football. And before we move on to hurling, because we will look at football in full next week, he just is wondering, is the Football Academy producing enough good footballers to improve Limerick? And I think the answer is in the recent results, not only at senior level, but underage, that obviously Kerry and Cork at underage levels have moved, are always going to be that bit ahead. Not always, but they're more than likely going to be ahead. But I suppose the minors reached the Munster final last year. They kind of solidified
But them
themselves.
unlucky not to win it, Jack.
Yeah, they solidified themselves as the fourth best this year because there's a very good Tipperary team there. The 20s got a win over Waterford consistently. When I was kind of minor 20s, that kind of age, the Limerick teams weren't winning at all against anyone. Whereas now there's consistent wins over Waterford, generally against Clare. They have a good, I'd say they're 21s now. They have a really good team. But you know, these kind of, that Limerick are, I think the academy is definitely working, and it goes to show that there is, it's, you can't, in football, definitely, you can't just go from underage into senior. Like, there's a lot of strength and conditioning work to be done, and that's obvious. But as a whole, this academy is definitely working. I suppose it's never going to produce the results that the hurling one is doing, because that's just an exceptional bunch. You have 7 or 8 players that came within a 4 or 5 span for the hurlers that will go down as Limerick's best. You know, that's not going to happen. But for the football, I definitely think it's working. You?
I agree, Jack. I agree totally with you. Prior to the academy, and you're right, Limerick were hovering in 5th and 6th place in Munster. Now they're up there mid-table, as it were, 3rd and 4th. And the trick and the challenge for Limerick now is to go to the next level. So I think the minor of last year and the minors this year is testimony to how the academy is working.
Yeah.
And it needs time. These things don't happen overnight, you know. And I would say to Michael, you know, and it's a thing that's in scarce commodity at times, is patience.
Yeah.
And I think we need the patience. And like the Limerick are fielding teams that have been very, very competitive at under 15 and under 16 levels. They were playing Roscommon and Galway there recently in under 15 or under 16, and they beat one and lost to the other. You know, that was unthinkable 6, 7, 8 years ago, prior to the academy.
Yeah.
There's phenomenal work being done in the academy, and let's have a bit of patience. I think it's beginning. There are green shoots there already.
Yeah, I think the football, you just have to be at a certain physical level. In hurling, your stick work will get you away that bit quicker. In football, it's just a slower transition. And as we said, it's the same players in a Munster final now that were in Division 4 3 or 4 years ago. Just that bit of work there. Well, not bit of work. An awful lot of work has gone into it from both management teams and players, and it's reaping the reward. So that's one Munster final to look forward to, the 28th of May. Liverpool aren't playing until 8 o'clock that evening. The footballers are at 3, so there'll be no worry. They can go to extra time and take time of penalties and everything. As long as Limerick come through, there'll be no rushing that way. It was confirmed by Cork, really, that we'd have a double Munster final. But I suppose I was in Ennis, and like, you'd hate to start on a bad note, but I was in Ennis, and at the end of the game, it was confirmed as a rematch, Limerick and Clare in the Munster final in 3 weeks. And as good as all it was, and there was just a part of me that was just annoyed with the decision to send off Gerard Hegarty. And we're going to start there because it was a main talking point. I think Limerick's win over Tipperary almost guaranteed they were going to get the Munster final, but they got the job done anyway, like even without Gerard. But I want to start there because like he's been scapegoated. Neither was a yellow in my opinion. You can try and prove me wrong all you want. A physical game is hurling. Garrod is a physical player. He's not a dirty player. There's a big difference there. He's 6'5". He's probably 100 kgs. If he tips off you, you're gonna feel it. That's just the nature of it. He used his body extremely well. He's pulled and dragged the other way, and it's allowed. But like, can you make head or tails of the yellows? And look, we don't want to be giving out our refs. We praise them more often than not, but on this occasion, like it has to be talked about.
Jack, if part of you was annoyed about it, the whole of me was annoyed about it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a scandalous decision. Both yellows, Jack.
Yeah.
Both yellows. Like we're talking about speeding up the game and all this sort of thing. The first yellow he incurred when he attempted to take a quick line ball and was impeded by a Clare player and got a yellow card for his troubles. For what?
Is it even in the rule book that is a yellow card offence?
You know, should it have been the Clare man that got the yellow card?
Well, I think you just say all right, because himself and McInerney were having a great battle. In fairness, like they were both given as good as they got. You just say, "Calm the Jets, lads. Let's just take the sideline again, move on."
Yeah,
because when I think there's too many yellows being brandished in hurling. We saw with Austin Gleeson earlier. If I'm marking you, Matt, and you get a yellow, I'm going to be pulling and dragging at you because I know at the end of the day we'll both get yellows and you will be sent off and I'll be grand.
Yeah.
That if you give someone a yellow card for something that's like not really a clear-cut yellow card, they're in real danger getting sent off because other players are too clever these days. And you can antagonize anyone off the ball because that won't be seen. That was the first yellow, and like Garrod Hegarty plays his game for the next 40 minutes, and there's no issues. Like, but then,
and there were no issues. No issues did arise. That's the thing about it, and I can't understand. Colm Lyons was quite near it. Obviously, he saw something anyway. Checked with the linesman who didn't appear to confirm one way or the other. Checked with the umpires who, with all due respects to him, were 50 or 60 metres away from it. And I just don't know how the decision was arrived at, Jack.
Yeah, and to be fair to Colm Lyons, I don't know, like, can you blame him? Because he spoke to 3 people and he also has an earpiece.
Like, he just didn't send him off on the hoof, like he didn't, he went around and he checked and he checked and he checked, He checked with everybody except the fella in the chip pan outside nearly,
Yeah,
So
we don't know what he was told by anyone. Like, I mean, the umpire could have said, "Yeah, definitely saw him swinging." And to be fair, like when you tackle with a hurley, the hurley is going to move. Like, it's like jumping in soccer with your hands. Like, your hands are going to move. Like, you're going to throw elbows in the air when you move. That's just the nature of it. But I mean, the simulation is another thing. Then altogether, apart from the yellow card, because if the Clare man just gets up, there's no yellow. Like, there's no problem. The fact that he goes down, I suppose it puts in the referee's hands that something has to be done. There's a good Clare crowd there. They're going to roar and shout. I don't blame any of them. You do the same if it was Limerick, but I don't know. Is you need something like a VAR system, going forward? Do you need the linesman? Surely saw that there was not.
I'd be totally opposed to VAR, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, well, if it was as bad as it was for Everton as it was for Limerick, I'd say stay away from it. Definitely.
Yeah, when you can pull the jersey off a guy in a vital Premier League game and VAR decides that there's nothing untoward about it, so bye VAR. VAR as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah, like, I mean, there's pulling and dragging going off all over the field, like, but there's certain players that are singled out for it. Like Declan Hannon took an awful.
We've been saying this, Jack, and I've been saying it for quite a while, and I put Aaron Gillan in the same boat now.
Yeah.
I think there's a certain element out there that believe that these two guys are fair game, and maybe not being afforded the protection that they should be.
Mm.
And
they've got Reds before. Obviously they were both sent off in the league, but I mean, they both took their send-ins off in the league. Like the Hegarty one against Galway was a red, but it was a melee started by Galway.
yes,
The Glen one was just, it was reckless enough against Conor Cleary. It was silly, like he'll know that himself. Look, they'll learn from these things, but now you're getting sent off for pulling on the jersey, that there's this agenda out there beforehand that like if Hegarty does anything, like if the roles are reversed and McInerney did what Hegarty did with the sideline ball, like there'd be nothing done about it. Grod Hegarty still probably get yellow actually, to be honest with you. But if it was, maybe in the other wing and it was Tom Morrissey against Diarmuid Ryan, you just pull it back and you're like, calm the jets there, lads. Let's get this going again.
Yeah, it's just because there's Grod Hegarty. I don't know, like, and we're talking about an absolutely fantastic hurler, like, and who people should be, who people are paying money to put bums in seats to watch, and who you can watch all day, every day, and
that's the thing as well. Like he's one of the 5 best players in the country. I think anyone have him in the top 5 list. That like you're curtailing his game, but there's no issues. If he goes over the line, fair enough. But like he'll be going into that Munster final tackling, and he won't be tackling properly. And he kind of himself and Willie O'Donoghue set the tone for Limerick in terms of physicality. You'd hate to see his game diluted for no real reason. Like I mean, if he was extremely reckless in everything he did, then that's fair enough. But like as I said, when Grod Hegarty hits you, you're going to feel it. Now, like if he hits you the fairest belt in the world, it'll probably be worse than a lot of lads' worst 30th belts. But that's just he's a physical specimen. There's nothing you can do about that. Like if Kyle Hayes gets a run on you, he's going to get away from you quicker than most other people. Just the way he's built. Like I don't know. I don't want to dwell too much, and I know we have spoke about it. The game itself, we're going to get a replay in the Munster final. Personally, for me, being there, I didn't think the game was great. Now, there was a great atmosphere there. Don't get me wrong. Ennis is a fantastic venue in terms of like atmosphere, logistics-wise. I don't know how great it is. Just like it was very packed. The bathroom situation half time.
Jack, it was a good, tough, traditional Munster Hurling Championship game.
I thought there was too many frees in the first half. Did you get that sense?
Yeah, but maybe not spectacular, but certainly there was a good bite, good trust, and cut and trust in it. And I suppose Colm Lyons had to say to himself like that, we have to make sure that we kind of keep the temperature, where it should be, But for the neutral, Jack, it was a great game, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was physicality, intensity-wise, brilliant. As you said, it wasn't spectacular. Both teams went at it. It was really an old-school hurling game. I think just a bit too many frees. But what about Tony Kelly, obviously for Clare, but Diarmuid Burns matched him stride for stride. I know most of his scores came from frees, but a lot of them were into wind and from way out the field. And correct me if I'm wrong, Diarmuid Burns is taking...
The late equaliser was a huge one, Jack.
Like, has Diarmuid taken a free closer than 65 this year? Probably not. And he has nailed probably 25 or so frees now. No, 25 is probably a bit much. He's probably nailed about 4 or 5 frees a game, which will give him the ones of 20. Like, I mean, that's unmatched at the moment. He's long range free taking is, and then the other side, Tony Kelly. But I suppose we got a good battle down the sideline at one stage. Diarmuid got a great hook in, and I don't think that was a foul either. Just because obviously you're going to come through someone if you're chasing them and they stop. But I'd say there'd be a plan in place for Tony Kelly for the Munster final, and it could be Diarmuid Burns again, and you'd love to see the two of them going at it again. I suppose outside of Limerick and Clare for a minute, you didn't expect that Cork win over Waterford. I kind of expected them to win. Now I did think Clare would lose and go down to the final day.
I didn't discount it, Jack, because I told you that I had reservations about Waterford.
But it just shows how it could flip so quickly that now Cork are in the driving seat like Waterford were the heir to the throne. They'd even overtaken Limerick in a lot of estimations. And look, there's nothing to say that on Sunday evening that it won't be Waterford that'll join Limerick and Clare. That it won't be
Yeah, but
Tipperary.
if you go back to the Limerick game and extrapolate the 2 goals, which I couldn't see Limerick conceding again, Limerick Waterford have not closed the gap in Limerick.
No, and I think the only team that could catch Limerick is themselves. And that's with a below par performance. That could be with the injuries as well, because obviously, look, there's nothing you can do about injuries. Kilkenny were the last team to beat Limerick in a knockout championship game, and if that game had gone on 2 minutes longer, Limerick would have won it. They just started with a ferocious intensity. Limerick are ready for that now. I still think they're ahead of the chasing pack. Is there anything you've seen from? We've seen every team now. Limerick have seen 4 times. Everyone else 3 times in Munster and Leinster. If Limerick get it going, it's very hard to see anyone beating them. Even though Clare got a draw, that's without Aaron Gillan, Keane Lynch, and Peter Casey for the duration of the game, and without Grot Hegarty for 10 minutes. Dar Donovan didn't start either. I know Clare have a few players to come back, but you take out that firepower out of every team when they're not getting out of the province.
I think I would still be slightly worried about Galway.
So they have the players that if they shoot a lot from far out, and if they get that right, to be fair, Joe Cooney and Thomas Monaghan in midfield have, I think, is it 127 from play or something like that?
Yeah.
Which is, from midfield is outrageous.
Tom Monaghan is completely reinvented, and he's a huge part of that Galway team.
Yeah, he was a brilliant player underage, and obviously from area. I think he won 1 fits, if not 2 of them. Just again, another lad that needed a bit more time. Probably needed the trust of a manager in Henry Shefflin, and he's blossoming. We know 2 to come out of Munster. Who'll join him?
I don't honestly know. What I could see possibly happening is that Waterford might produce their best performance of the championship on Sunday. Maybe win the game against Clare because Clare have the job already done, and that it might be all in vain because Cork will win in Thurles, and it will go to head to head.
Yeah, I think.
But I'm not 100% sure that Cork will win in Thurles.
Well, Tipperary aren't out.
This is Cork and Tipperary. This is Tipperary that have lost 3 games. And by a quirk of the system and the round-robin system, they're not out of the championship.
Yeah.
They could possibly lose 3 of their 4 games and still qualify for the All-Ireland Series. How would they do that, one might ask? What are the mechanics of it? Beat Cork by 7 points and Clare beat Waterford, Tipperary go through. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, they have to overturn the Waterford points deficit as well. They have Waterford,
but the Waterford points deficit took a bit of hammering last Sunday.
But I think they're -5 now.
Yeah, but if they were to lose to Clare,
Yeah, they would naturally, but there is a scenario where Cork win or Tipperary win by 5 or 6, and if Waterford only lose by a narrow margin, that it'll still be them to go through. But I think Clare will play a weakened team, and Waterford will have enough to get over the line because their backs will be to the wall. But I think Cork will get the job done, but I don't think it'll be easy because Tipperary aren't gone yet. But I would be worried about Cork coming through the back door if they do finish 3rd, because I think they're the sort of team. Kieran Joyce has shown that he can play at 6. There's no fear of him in his first year in at the senior level. Mark Coleman is a wing back out and out, probably even a wing forward. Seamus Harnedy rolled back the years. They have a scenario now where Patrick Horgan could be an impact sub, and imagine having him coming off the bench. That if they can get over the line into a preliminary quarterfinal, into a quarterfinal, that I would be worried about him getting up a bit, because they did it last year essentially. Built up a bit of steam after being hammered by Limerick. Yeah. I went all the way to the final, and were it not for one of the best performances ever we could have had a competitive All-Ireland final.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. If Cork get through on Sunday, I wouldn't be discounting him at all, Jack.
Yeah, but 3 weeks.
Whether with the question you asked, what the main challengers to Limerick, I think the main challengers to Limerick are Galway.
For me, it's Kilkenny. I kind of want to see Kilkenny, to be honest with you. I just that 2019 game.
You have revenge in the head, Jack.
Yeah, I have revenge in the head. And Michael Conway's other question as well will tie into this as we're talking about hurling here. He's wondering, will we see any more of the 20s for in the Munster final? And I suppose we've seen Colin Neal already. I think we would have seen Adam English and Colin Coughlin already. I think we would have seen them in Ennis if it wasn't for the scenario. But is there anyone else? Obviously, Paddy Donovan is a part of the squad. I don't think you'd be rushing Paddy back too much. Mightn't even see much in this weekend. Anyone else an outside shot you could see?
I could possibly. And to get a starting place.
No, I don't know. But I'd say even just to come in.
I can't see it. Obviously, Colin Coughlin and Adam English will be back in the forefront after next Sunday. But that doesn't mean that they will be in the starting 15, but they certainly will be putting pressure on those on the starting 15. There's a doubt about that.
Do you think John Kiley would have a couple in mind for next year and decide to bring him in for the remainder of the year and just train away?
Possibly. Well, Jimmy Quilty would be one of those that I would imagine. Ethan Hurley, Aidan O'Connor, Fergal O'Connor, Conor Hanley Clark now, and you might say goalkeeper, but what about Shane O'Brien?
Yeah, Shane O'Brien is only 17, so I mean he's probably just a tad young. But I mean, yeah, look, you could name any of them. I think there could be a couple that will be brought in for training. We've seen Limerick's injury list has started to pile up. Obviously, now John Kiley was coy, but it did seem positive that we would see Aaron Gillan definitely for the Munster final, but that there could be a chance for Peter Casey and Keane Lynch, even if he just got some minutes into their belt, because there will be a game after the Munster final. But even until the meantime, to have those 20s in there, get them used to the system, I don't think it'd be the worst idea to bring in a few of the older lads.
Not at all, Jack. It's terribly important. It's the next progression. It's the next stepping stone in their development. All right, Adam English has another year under 20. Colin Coughlin hasn't, or has he?
Colin Coughlin is the one age with Colin Neal, so no, he wouldn't.
No, he hasn't.
Adam English is the same goal as Ethan Hurley. They got to the All-Ireland semi-final against Galway, and then we're playing 20s a few weeks later.
That's right. And Patrick O'Donovan is the same.
Yeah. So you also have Liam Lynch and David Hegarty's coming to that. But we'll get to the 20s at the end, because I do want to round out this week's podcast with the under 20s. But just on Clare and Limerick, it definitely whets the appetite for that Munster final. Again, I don't think there'll be anyone in any way kind of annoyed to see them teams face off in the Munster final. And it's a long time since they met in the Munster final for a competition that has only had 5 teams for the majority of that time. It's now 27 years since 95, and Clare haven't won it since 98 as well. They will be gunning for it. Limerick will be gunning for their own bit of history, 4 in a row. Like, there's so many narratives in this game. Obviously, Gerard Hegarty will be back. You know, you could just see the hurler of the year. Aaron Gillan will be back. Who will pick him up? I mean, like, take your pick. Which is the most fascinating?
Sure, look, it is fascinating to think about it. Who will pick up Tony Kelly on our side? You know, that sort of thing. Like, but you know, like, it has the ingredients of being a fantastic game. And Clare, you're right. They're the longest team now in Munster of the 5 hurling counties without a Munster title. They haven't won it for 24 years, which is a long time. You know, so Limerick going for 4 in a row. Clare trying to bridge almost a quarter of a century of fruitless endeavour in the competition, and it all adds up. Plus the you know, the dress rehearsal that we saw in Innis last Sunday is certainly going to whet the appetite. And it's going to be a sellout crowd in Thurles for it, and no question about it. And we'll be talking about it nearer. And don't ask me to predict who's going to win, Jack, because I'll tell you I won't answer it until the week of the game. But it's a game to really look forward to, and we expect to see Gerard Hegarty, and we expect to see Aaron Gillan on board, and possibly you'd never know about Keane Lynch.
Yeah,
the master maybe back,
Also, Colin Neal was a huge loss as well. I knew there was someone else I was missing. Already he's shown his impact. But before we move on from that game, it's probably a much maligned position of cornerback, Matt. But the standard on Sunday, obviously Sean O'Donoghue first, for anyone watching on television, continuing his year. But then in Ennis, like at either end, Sean Finn and Rory Hayes as well from Clare, like. I think the two All-Stars will go in 3 of them. Sean Finn has been pushed hard for the first time in a few years. Obviously, he was so far ahead of chasing back. But then at the other side, Barry Nash as well. Like, the 4 lads there. Like, the standard is ridiculous.
It is absolutely. It's a position that have evolved into greater importance in the game nowadays, because you'll be. I remember in the game, I'm around long enough to remember when cornerbacks, let's say, were cornerbacks. They were brawny men who gave away nothing. Some people might call them rooters, but they were invariably tough men, that maybe hadn't the same hurling skills as those out the field. But it's a position that has evolved now, and there's an awful lot starting back at the cornerback, and we can see the role when that, particularly Barry Nash, when he moves forward. Sean Finn is more the type of cornerback that minds the house.
The rooter.
No, he's not. He's not the rooter.
Well, if you Sean Finn is your rooter, then you're flying it,
No, he's not a rooter. He's far from it. Because you don't remember these guys, Jack. And I won't mention their names, but by God, if you had the name of being an inter-county cornerback, you were a man not to be tangled with,
I still wouldn't fancy tangling with any of these lads,
No,
they can go the other way as well as what you're saying,
No, but what you have now, Jack, is hurling cornerbacks.
Yeah, Brian Fanning's hurling.
Yeah.
That can hurt you.
Really, and we have seen the evolution of the position. It has evolved now into being it was always an important position, but the role of the cornerback has changed to a certain degree. Yeah. And you need hurling cornerbacks. Those that are around as long as I am, or nearly as long as I'm, would agree with that. That the cornerbacks in the past were tough men.
Yeah, I think it's just it's a very specialized position. I think there's a lot of room for maneuvering in the middle 8. I think a lot of players can go between. We've seen obviously Kyle move up and back, and Gerard Hegarty when he's 21s at Ireland and halfback. I think it's more specialized, but Barry Nash then there's always an exception to the rule. But I think it just needs to be noticed, just the standard of cornerback play, and it's a joy to watch, really. And I suppose conversely, the lads trying to get the better of them at the other end is equally entertaining.
Both cornerbacks are playing very well.
Yeah.
Niall O'Leary's having a good year as well.
Paul Flanagan has gone well for Clare as well.
For Clare as well,
We know how strong the Kilkenny full back line is as well.
Conor Delaney seemed to seamlessly fit in and place a few Lawler last week.
Yeah, and you have Mikey Butler, and you have Tommy Walsh, the new Tommy Walsh, and then you have the King in Galway at fullback, the High Burke, so don't forget that. Now I know that's going into the fullback debate. We might have that someday between themselves.
Yeah, but they have a very good cornerback coming through, this Dan Morrissey guy,
Yeah, it's just no longer are you putting in the last of the 15 in cornerback. He's definitely in the first 5 or 6 names you want, because first of all, if you can't stop the best player the other way, you're goose. But you also need to be able to start attacks. So look, we have a double Munster final to look forward to over the coming weeks. As you said, Saturday, the 28th of May, in Killarney at 3:00, and then you have the following Sunday, you have the senior hurling final between Clare and Limerick in Thurles at 4:00. Also on that weekend, Matt, is the Celtic Cup Challenge involving Limerick. And again, you're the expert in this, so I'll leave it to you there.
Yeah, well, Limerick are at the second level, which is Curran John Scott. There's only one level above it, and I'll just give you an interesting statistic about it there in a minute. It was tweaked this year, and I don't know why, but Limerick have done very well. Didn't do that well in the group stage because the group stage was just a seeding process. They lost to Clare, lost to North Cork, and drew with Galway. And the point I want to make about Galway are now in the Division 1 final against Tipperary. And Limerick then qualified. Everybody qualifies for the knockout stage. In the knockout stage, Limerick were drawn away to Kilkenny Blacks. And they went there 2 weeks ago and had a very, very comfortable win there, scored 5 goals. It isn't too often you go into Kilkenny's backyard in any team and score 5 goals.
Yeah.
But they did it and came away 5-18 to 16 or 2-16 victors. And they got the look of a home draw against Dublin Plunkets in the semi-final last weekend. Now, I must say, the Celtic Challenge under 17 is for players that have just failed to make the county minor team. So it is your really minor development squad, if you like. So they got a home draw against Dublin Plunkets last week, and it was played in Clare on Sunday, and Limerick won it 123 to 112. It was a decisive enough victory, nip and tuck. It was level up to 10 minutes into the second half. Limerick got a goal through Johnny Field and sort of drove on from there, even though Dublin got a goal. But Limerick finished very, very strongly, as any team that wins by 11 points does. And lo and behold, in the other semi-final, it was Cork City against North Cork. And Cork City came through 213 to 12 points in Fermoy on Monday evening to set up a final between Limerick Sarsfields and Cork City. And for once in a wonder, Jack, Limerick got a home draw.
I won't be talking about home draws. The next topic coming up.
Yeah.
But,
we won't tell the Camogie people.
Yeah.
But Limerick got a home draw.
And the time of that on the Saturday of the Munster final weekend?
It's on Saturday the 4th at a venue and time to be confirmed. I understand that Gaelic Grounds is in the mix.
Right.
McNeville Park is in the mix. It's an All-Ireland final. The Gaelic Grounds, McNeville Park, possibly Clare again.
Let's have a winning record in Clare.
Winning record in Clare, so
if they can't get the Gaelic Grounds, because they deserve it if it's not Ireland final. So
yeah,
we've too much coming up over the next few weeks.
You know, they've been doing great work there, and Peter Nash is among the backroom team there, as well as his commitments to Limerick football, and Chris Sexton, Jerry Murphy, David O'Dea, they've great committed hurling men behind him, and they've developed as a team by keeping them together, and the rules of this, the rules of it is that you name 6 subs, I think, on the day, and you have to use all 6 during the course of the game.
That's good. That's brilliant.
Which means that the maximum amount of players get exposure, which is a very, very good idea, I think, Yeah,
and, because getting to the we'll talk about 20s more again out from top to Camogie first, but Evan O'Leary is an example from a hand that didn't play with the academy. He was maybe a lad that probably featured in the Celtic Cup Challenge and got invaluable experience, and we see how good he is now. So I mean, it's a brilliant initiative. The more lads you can get playing for as long as you can get them playing. Look, no one's going to try that.
The final will be these lads' 6th game in the competition, Jack.
Yeah, and I suppose for Cork, obviously with the green mist, it's brilliant for Limerick to have many players, but for Cork, it must be hard to be noticed with is there 250 clubs or something in Cork? You know, there's a huge
there is.
population that for lads like that in a huge county that you know they might get there could be the next Seamus Harnedy who came from nowhere, but I suppose challenges like this we'll promote that. We'll look ahead to that more.
Actually, Jimmy Quilty, as you know, the Limerick under 21 or under 20 captain was making the point during the week in the press morning that you know that the good spread of clubs that is in the under 20 side and the under 20 panel, and he's attributing it to, I think he attributed it in no small way to the manner in which the academy cast the net.
Yeah.
Which I think is a very, very valid point.
I think 3 All-Irelands in 4 years, you are maxing out your resources in Limerick, so long may it last. There's no stone being overlooked. This weekend as well, we also have the start of the Camogie Championships. As I mentioned to you, Matt, we have the junior team are in action on Saturday. They have home advantage in Bruff at 2 o'clock against Armagh, and the seniors are out then just over 24 hours later. They're on against Galway in Pearse Stadium. That's a double header with the Galway-Dublin game. So, look, you'll be looking for a big crowd. Starting with the juniors, it's a completely new look team this year, just the way things have transpired. So it's hard to get a gauge on where they are, but the junior team in recent years has definitely provided an awful lot of players that have gone on to make that step up to the senior, and you'll be hopeful that Saturday can be kind of the first step for those players.
You would, we've spoken about the structure of this and the scheduling of the games today, Jack, and I'm not going to go into it now, other than to say that Limerick play the All-Ireland champions in Pearse Stadium on Saturday at 3:30. It's a curtain raiser to the Galway-Dublin Leinster Senior Hurling Championship game. Now, that's a good idea, actually, you know, doubling up the games. But Limerick are going to be under huge pressure going down there. Let's call a spade a spade. And, you know, and they follow it up with an away trip to Kilkenny. So, like, it isn't the ideal start to a championship that John Lillis or his girls would want. And I suppose it's compounded by the fact that there are a number of very important players that were part of the squad last year for a variety of reasons are not available this year. And I'm talking about the likes of Judith Mulcahy, Karen O'Leary, Debbie Murphy, and Anya Cunningham, who is in Australia. And like you know yourself, Jack, from seeing him last year, the important roles that that particular quartet played in the side. So John Lillis's first duty when he was took up the reins was to find replacements for those, which wasn't very easy. Now he spread the net far and wide. In fact, in that he used over 30 players in the 4 games in the league. And I think it's actually 34. I might be subject to correction on that. Now, he was forced into a situation that he had to hand debuts to a lot of people down in Cork in the second round because of an outbreak of sickness in the Limerick camp, which robbed him of key players, including Cueva Costello and so on. And, you know, an awful lot is going to rest on the shoulders of of course, another player that's missing this year is goalkeeper Laura O'Neill, who has been out injured and has been a regular goalkeeper for the last number of years. And fair dues to Clare Keating, who was the former goalkeeper and had retired and came out of retirement and is doing a very, very good job between the sticks. You know, as she did with Cappamore last year when they were winning the intermediate championship. But like as you said there about the juniors, a couple of the juniors have made the step up. The like of Orla Kelleher, a very, very good young player, Michelle Curtin, and I'll refer again to I have great admiration for that girl because of the way she was treated last year.
Yeah.
With a 3-match ban. a needless 3-match ban, which became 4, and through no fault of her own, and through no fault of Limerick Camogie, through an administrative hiccup. And ALB Larkin, a very good, exciting young player. The likes of those coming through. Emma Kennedy at cornerback, another one from Doon. But you see, they're coming up against on Saturday, Jack. I would argue, I argued it with a Cork Camogie expert recently, and he wasn't at all impressed with my summation that this is the best. Galway are the best Camogie team I've seen, I think, while I'm following the game.
The current iteration.
They're absolutely a superb team. No question about it. Like, they're league champions, they're All-Ireland champions. So, if you want to benchmark the new Limerick, I suppose benchmark them against the best. But just referring back to the league, now, when we saw it there last weekend, going to Cork, and almost, it came so close to beating Cork in the Munster final. It took, they were level at the end of normal time, in the end of extra time, and it took further extra time before Cork won by 3 points. And in normal time and in extra time, the first periods of extra time, it was Cork that got the equaliser. Clare were that close to winning a Munster championship. Why am I saying that? Because I'm saying it because Limerick gave a very, very encouraging performance, Jack, in the third round of the league, in the final round of the league against Clare.
Should have beaten them.
And should have beaten them, and nearly got over the line, and that would have avoided relegation. Now, they put up a very, very creditable performance against Offaly, and in the playoff, which, needless to say, it wasn't in Limerick, Jack. And the signs are good, but having said that, a game against the All-Ireland champions in their own backyard is not the ideal scenario for building on 2 promising performances.
No, but look, we'll give him the best of luck, the best of support. Look, as you said, strange things have happened, but again, you're looking for performance because you have Offaly, you have Down, you have these teams to come. Obviously, Kilkenny are next up, and that's obviously a difficult challenge.
But we've home games against them. After the Kilkenny game, we've home games against Offaly and Down, neither of which will be a gimme. And then you have a difficult trip to Antrim in the final round. It's an Antrim team that were narrowly beaten by Wexford in Division 2 of the league final. So they will be more than useful. And we saw Wexford last year in the championship, in the senior championship. They reached the quarterfinal and were only beaten by Kilkenny.
Yeah, look, it's not going to be easy, but if you can just, I suppose, get a positive start against Galway and Kilkenny, if you pick up the wins, all the better. But 3 wins out of your last 3 games would generally be good enough, depending on results elsewhere. But if you can start strong, it doesn't necessarily have to be results-wise, performance-wise. They showed against Clare that they're not that far away when they get it right, as you pointed out there. So we're looking for a Clare performance.
But that, you touched on something there, like win the last 3 games. Winning the last 3 games, you would be desperate unlucky not to make the quarterfinals, because there are quarterfinals. There are 3 going out of the group.
To win the 3 games and miss out, that means one of Galway or Kilkenny were beaten along the way by someone else. Obviously, some of them will beat one another, but they will have to be beaten by one of the other 3, Yeah, so hopefully, please God, Limerick can top the group to start off with. I think John Lidis will be looking for performance, and he'd be pragmatic enough to look for performance next on Saturday and see where it goes from there. Yeah, and the same for the juniors, because it's a very new look side. Looking for performance against Armagh and see can you build on from that? Both those games are obviously on Saturday.
Jack, the game in Bruff on Saturday is at 2:00, and Limerick haven't a single player that played in the league that was involved in the championship last year. And the game with Armagh is a repeat of last year's All-Ireland Junior semi-final, which Limerick lost narrowly.
Yeah.
To Armagh. But there isn't a single player, I'd imagine, that was in that game against Armagh last year in the All-Ireland semi-final that will feature on Saturday. Maybe I'm wrong, but it'll be a completely new look Limerick team. Completely. I saw the team sheets during the league that they played Wexford in the first round, and very, very difficult assignment. Wexford won the Junior League, or the Division 3 of the league. Why they were in it in the first place, I don't know, but we have argued about that in this medium before. And they put up, they got a walkover from Down, which wasn't ideal. You'd be better off to be getting a game anyway. And then they put up a decent, creditable performance against Clare and Father McNamara Park in the final round. But you know, like the seniors, they ended the league campaign pointless.
Yeah, look, we're only looking for performances. That's all you can do to steer the ship in the right direction, because they were disappointing leagues. There's no two ways about that. But hopefully we can, I suppose, start to steer the ship in the right direction with two positive performances.
They're leagues that we banish out of our minds, Jack.
Yeah, and the following day, then we have an All-Ireland final to look forward to. And I wanted to finish with the 20s to give them the chance to talk about them, because they're giving us a lot of good days so far. Like, I think it kind of goes under the radar in Munster. Bar Kerry, who aren't operating in that level, they beat everyone. You know, you talk about a traditional big three of Kilkenny, Cork, and Tipperary. They can complete the set in All-Ireland final and add Clare and Waterford already on that list. But that's the occasion for Diarmuid Mullins and his side. 1/2 in Thurles. It's the curtain raiser in name, and I think it's the main event. Although Tipperary and Cork are both still in with the Munster Championship. That should give a good vibe around Thurles anyway. Please God. But it's a very exciting tie. Kilkenny came through a very hard Leinster. I think that has to be said, because we all know how good Galway are at underage level, and they had beaten Kilkenny in a numerous years in a row. They got over the line, and then they beat Wexford in the final. There's an awful lot of similarities between this team and the last Limerick team to win All-Ireland final. And the teams that have won All-Ireland finals in recent years, the 15 and 17 teams, they didn't turn out too bad, did they?
No, they did not. And you're saying there about Kilkenny winning a very, very good Leinster final, or a Leinster championship. That they did. They beat Offaly in the first round in Nolan Park. It was a kind of a routine victory. Then they beat Galway in Tullamore after extra time, 128-127, and it was a huge landmark victory for Galway for Kilkenny, because Galway had been the bane of their lives at minor level for a number of years. And then they beat Wexford in Dr. Cullen Park by a single point. A Wexford team who had beaten Laois by a point. You know, so it was very, very competitive. But when you talk about the competitiveness of Leinster, Munster, Jack, was equally competitive.
Oh yeah, I know, yeah.
And like you had and it was the perfect it was a perfect Munster championship to win, as you rightly pointed out there, in that you beat Clare, you beat Cork, you beat Waterford, you beat Tipperary in that order. You know, now, you know, spare a thought for Clare, Jack. We've got to be honest. You know, we robbed them.
Yeah, and if we played Clare in the second round, and there were no Carl O'Neill there.
Yeah.
To say it.
And, you know, Clare then went on to play Cork, and Cork robbed them. You know?
Yeah.
So you just wonder what would they have done had they picked up a win. But look, that's water under the bridge now. Limerick and Munster champions. And but the one thing that you know that strikes me about this Limerick team You know, they lost their top player. It's the way that both the management and the players have adapted to the loss of Cathal O'Neill. Because let's face it, Jack, he was the talisman of the team. He was the go-to man. You're a goal down against Clare 2 minutes into injury time. He walks up to a free, he buries it, he catches the puck out, he puts it over the bar, and Clare are gone.
He's the best under 20 player in the country. I think that's
the type of player that you're talking about. A player who has very, very successfully made the transition to senior hurling. In without doubt the best senior hurling team in the country. But how Dermot Mullins and his management team and the players have responded to that loss has been simply absolutely phenomenal in my view. And that was a great performance down in Parky Rin.
Yeah.
You know, and the narrative was going around after Limerick beating Cork down there and Cork going for 3 in a row. Look, sure, there was nothing at stake. Both were through anyway. They were through anyway. But when it came to the business end of the competition, Cork failed to Tipperary. Limerick beat Waterford, and of course the rest is history. Limerick beat Tipperary in the Munster final.
Yeah.
So the way Limerick have adapted, you know, to Cathal O'Neill, because let's face it, you know, he's a player at that level for the ages.
Yeah, and look, we've spoke ad nauseum about how much of a pity it is that we didn't see more of him at 20s. Dave Clifford was the same. Shawnee Shea was the same for Kerry. We won't talk about that anymore. You add in, I mentioned him already, Liam Lynch and Dermot Hegarty to that list that we haven't seen yet. Paddy Donovan we've seen for 20 minutes, you know.
Paddy Donovan, you know, who's, you know...
next man up, Shane O'Brien has got 5 points in back-to-back games. Adam English has got 5 points and 1-2. Aidan O'Connor on the freeze, no bothers to him. Like, the scores are still coming, even without Colin Neal. They're probably coming from more various places. Eddie Stokes has been kind of an unsung hero on this team. They've been a joy to watch, a breath of fresh air. For Dermot Mullins, it's 3 Munster titles in 4 years. It's the first All-Ireland final. And when I say similarities to 2017, I'll get onto that in a while. But this team, this age at minor, were beaten in 19 by Kilkenny. There's, I think, is it 10 of both teams expected to start this weekend again. You know, like, you can carry that with you. The Limerick 2014 minor team were hot favourites to win the All-Ireland. The team that was captained by Cian Lynch. Kilkenny did a job on them on that day. 3 years later, they got the job done again. Limerick got the job done this time with the likes of Cian Lynch, Aaron Gallant, Sean Finn, Kyle Hayes, you name it. And a year later, they're All-Ireland senior champions with all those boys on board. I know it's not going to work like that because Limerick are a powerhouse now, but you'd love a turnover like that again, wouldn't you? Starting with a win against Kilkenny.
You would, and it's quite possible. And you'd say to yourself, right, both sides have 10 of those that featured in that All-Ireland semi-final 3 years ago, and that, you know, that the balance is still weighed in favour of Kilkenny. But, you know, it's not so much about the 10 that are playing, Jack. It's about the 5 that are coming in.
Yeah,
and the difference that they're likely to make. And here comes Shane O'Brien. This is where fellas like Shane O'Brien come into it.
The thing with
what they're bringing to the table.
Shane O'Brien, Evan O'Leary, and Keane Scully all beat a Kilkenny team in an All-Ireland final.
Yes,
just
recently.
2 months ago. Like, you know, there's 4 that St. Kieran's team then on the other side that'll be looking for revenge. And one of them that definitely stuck out for me was Joe Fitzpatrick, the centre back.
Absolutely.
For St. Kieran's. A huge, very like Kyle Hayes when he was 21. It's just a huge man there. But for Limerick, there's a couple of those lads, even though they're very young, with that experience of beating Kilkenny in an All-Ireland final, because for the rest of the team, none of them have All-Ireland medals in their back pocket. Or Colin Coughlin aside, he's a senior one. I'm sure he'd love to add a 20s to that. But like, to get over the line in an All-Ireland final, it's reserved for the best teams every year. You know, like, there's an awful lot of brilliant players we've seen that haven't got over the line in All Ireland finals that have given their all. So it'll be a huge like incentive for a very talented crop to keep going, because as we know, these teams are built to supply the future, and it started with Darren Mullins' reign 3 years ago with the minors, and hopefully it can bring down a curtain of what has been a very decorative underage career for the likes of, as you said, Jimmy Quilty. Who else is of the age? I think Fergal O'Connor is of the age. These boys, Patrick Kirby's, Colin Neal, obviously, Colin Coughlin, that have given so much to Limerick Hurling, and we'll see him with the senior jersey soon. But it'll be a lovely way to bring down that group from the academy that have proven so much.
You know, there are parallels, Jack, between the way this team has evolved, as you said, under Dermot Mullins, and the way the Limerick senior footballers have evolved under Billy D. It's measurable progress, step by step, and we have seen it back to back. Munster under 20 minor titles. In all honesty, I don't think a lot of people in Limerick were expecting it to happen. It happened. Reaching the Munster under 20 final last year, and that shot at the end that went so close to going into the Cork net, which would have scooped the title for Limerick. We're that close. We were literally inches away from winning that last year, and then to come back this year and to do it in the manner in which they did, because there was no soft route in this one. There was no soft games. There was no gimmies. You had to play the big four in Munster, and you had to come out on top. And that they did. And to do it with 3 of the games against probably, the big 2 in particular, Cork and Tipperary, and to do it without a player of the calibre of Cathal O'Neill, I think there's great credit due to him. And I honestly believe, and Dermot Mullins has spoken about the measurable improvement that has been shown in the team from game to game. I believe that there is another notch in them. And if they can get that notch out on Sunday, I think they will be All-Ireland champions.
Yeah, and I think they're a team as well that thrive under pressure. Players for the big stage that we've seen with their clubs, and they've got done it in back-to-back Munster finals. They lost both the All-Ireland semi-finals to obviously Kilkenny and then that all-conquering Galway team. So it would be lovely for them. As Dermot said, they didn't have to get over the semi-final this time. They were straight into the final. Just to get over the line, I'm with you. I'm calling a Limerick win. Now, I did see Kilkenny, and that's why I was quick to stress how good that Leinster Championship was. But as you said, the Munster Championship was equally good. As you said, if Limerick can hit their stride, and if the Limerick players can perform to the level we know they can perform to, they'll be All-Ireland champions at 3:30.
And Patrick O'Donovan being available is a big asset, Jack. Whether he'll start or whether he'll come on as a sub, but it gives you an idea of the strength of the squad.
Yeah, and I won't even name the players that are missing again. Like it's crazy.
Dermot Hegarty, you have Mike Keane.
Yeah. I think Michael Crimmel was injured. I don't know if he's still injured. The likes of Vince Harrington and JJ Carey, they were part of that Article Reach team, haven't been seen at all. Yeah. We've only seen snippets of Brian O'Grady and Barry Duff that helped Munger to Premier Intermediate title and so instrumental in that. So, I mean, look, it all bodes well for Limerick in the future, and we will see a lot of them in the senior jersey. But for now, all that'll matter to them, and rightly so, is this 20s final. But we're both tipping a Limerick win.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think the team is going very, very much in the right direction. I was seriously worried when they were going out again without, and at the risk of being repetitive, without Cathal O'Neill. But the manner in which they adapted to life after Cathal O'Neill and without Cathal O'Neill has been very, very impressive, Jack.
Yeah, and I think it's been impressive as well the way they've handled themselves in interviews. They've spoken about how big of a loss it was, but that other players have stepped up, and they've not just said it, but they've shown on the field as well. And like under 20s, like they're a lot younger than the 21s team that won in 17. had, like, say, Keane Lynch and Sean Finn and Aaron Galland. They were 21 years of age. They all had senior experience. Bar Colin Coughlin, none of the players have senior experience from either side, as far as I know. Like, so, I mean, it's a different level to be 20 than it is 21, as you know yourself from growing up. Like, it's a big year. So these lads are just carrying themselves exceptionally. Again, if they can continue that, and I suppose it's no surprise that having a secondary school principal as your manager seems to do the trick in Limerick.
Well, it does. It's a formula that has worked. There isn't any doubt about that. But you must remember with this changing that has been going on with age grades. It's not very long ago when colleges hurling was sort of an addition to get on the county minor hurling team. Now it's an addition to get on the county under 20 team because it's under 19.
Yeah.
So I'm just beginning to wonder, when is this nonsense of changing all these things going to stop?
Yeah, I liked 18 and 21. Thought they were grand solid ages.
I'm a traditionalist, and I thought it served the GAA very, very well.
I also think the club player is in more risk of being burned out because now you have 17, 19s and 21s.
Yeah.
As well as your adult team. So, but sure, that's a debate for another day. If Limerick are crowned under 20 champions on Sunday.
Debate, Jack? Did you say debate?
No, I don't want to start a debate now.
I wish to God we had more debate and that the clubs were involved in it. And the people at grassroots level, you know, that they eulogize in the charter of the association, but that's as far as it goes. I think what we need in the GAA is more debate, Jack, and a lot more of it, and those all the stakeholders.
Yeah. Look, you've made your point about the clubs, and it's a very fair one. And I think anyone that disagrees with that doesn't have the best interest.
You know how to rile me, Jack, today. It took you 75 minutes, but you pulled it off, you know.
Yeah, we're an extra time here in the podcast this week, but we got it. I thought an All-Ireland final and 2 Munster finals to look forward to, that you'll be happy. But sure, we'll leave it at that. We won't have any more debate. I suppose a couple of fogras before we go. I suppose well done to Leo O'Connor, who helped the Offaly minor team to a first title in 22 years. You could see in the interview the emotion of Leo, and he was part of that. 2011, he was manager 2011-21 side, keeping in the team of today's podcast that the likes of Declan Hannon and Graham Mulcahy and Kevin Downs came from and served Limerick so well and are still doing so. And nice to see Laois in the final as well. You know, it was nice. It shows the work, if it's done right, you'll reap the rewards, but well done to Leo.
Well done. I want to concur with you about Leo. Has been a great servant to Limerick Hurling and to Clahan, but as a player first, an All-Ireland minor winner in 84, an All-Ireland under-21 winner in 87. I think Leo might have 2 Munster under-21 medals. I think possibly 86 and 87. He definitely has one in 87 and was very, very prominent in the All-Ireland final in 1987. And as you rightly said, he was manager of the Limerick team that won the Munster under-21 championship in 2011 after that titanic struggle with Cork. I think it was after extra time, actually, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And he has now gone on to Offaly, and he has painstakingly over the last 2 or 3 years built this Offaly minor team to and now has brought him a Leinster title, the first since the year 2000. And I'm absolutely delighted for Leo and wish Leo the very, very best of luck in the concluding stages of the championship, because Tipperary are in there, Laois are in there, but they'll hardly meet Laois again. But Clare are in there and Galway are in there. And he probably will have to wait a while the charade of this round robin goes on, and before he knows who they will be facing in the semi-final.
Yeah, I suppose with unfortunately Limerick are out of the reckoning in the minor. So for now, we'll place our bets on Leo and the Offaly team coming through, as you said, Dave, to wait.
We'll hang our hat on Leo in the minor
Yeah.
championship, Jack.
I don't think I think Leo was part of that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. He was part of that '94 team that suffered so badly at the hands of Offaly, but he's the man. Nearly 30 years later, I suppose, leading the charge again. And also, there was a hope last year, Matt, that we do a podcast in a Couga when Limerick were running that very successful Win a Couga initiative. I suppose that didn't transpire. I don't know who won it. They're keeping it close to their chest who won it, but Limerick are back.
Believe it or not, I think it went to either Laois or Offaly last year.
Was it up to Leo O'Connor?
I don't know, but it went to the Midlands anyway. I think it was Laois.
Well, I'm hoping this year. I don't think I was on the road last year when the Couga was. I don't know when the draw was made, but I'm on the road now. So, Limerick, in association with Adams of Glyn, are giving away a brand new Peugeot E 2008. It's very simple to get involved in all this. Goes back into Limerick GAA. So essentially, you're helping out the teams. Win a Peugeot.ie to sign in and get your tickets. It looks like a Jeep kind of a Peugeot to me, Matt. So there is scope for doing a podcast if we win it this year around. But we'll have a nice promotional video for you next week. But if anyone is looking for a new car, there's a chance with Limerick GAA to do just that with the Win a Peugeot initiative. As I said, winapeugeot.ie will take you there. It's very easy. It just takes you to a website, buy your ticket, and for just €20, you could have a brand new car. So I'm sure you'll be entering the draw, Matt.
It certainly will, Jack. I certainly will be entering it. And like for €20, look, it's just not the €20, or maybe it's not the Peugeot right you want to be in with a chance. But where the proceeds of and how the proceeds of this draw are being used, which is so laudable, and like it's going back into our county, and it is contributing, Jack. And I would appeal to people to support the draw. It's contributing to days like next Saturday week, and the following Sunday week.
Yeah.
It's all going towards bringing about those type of days. So I would appeal to everybody possible that to join the draw. Look, it's a cliche. If you're not in, you can win.
Yeah, you have until the 26th of August to get in, but you'll get in before that, and the draw will be made then on the 2nd
of September.
Friday the 2nd, so it could be a good start to your autumn months. But you can get in a colour of your choice, Matt, if you do come out. What colour are you going for?
I don't know, Jack. I'd go for green.
Would you go for green?
Yes.
I was thinking as much. Hopefully there'll be plenty of green flags being waved around Thurles this Sunday, starting with the Limerick under-20s as they face Kilkenny in the All-Ireland final at 1:30. Look, if you can't make it out, if you can't get tickets, it'll be on TG Cara, but I'm sure I was at both of them in 15 and 17. I was a bit young for them 2002 teams. So I was at the last two.
You deserve to savour victory on All-Ireland under 2021 final day.
Yeah, I actually have a question here before we end up. I was just doing there'll be a quiz during the week of who has won 21 medals for Limerick. By my reckoning, there was 4 players that started the 3 in a row. So they started each of the finals from 2000, 2002. I'll give you the positions just to make that bit easier if you were stuck. But do you know the 4?
Damien Rail.
Damien Rail is one of them, yeah. Cornerback.
Eugene Mulcahy.
Yeah, beside him.
And
then one at either end of the field. The very opposites.
Timmy Holohan. No.
Yeah.
Timmy. Oh, yeah. He was captain in the second year.
You could give out yourself now if you missed this one.
I'll give out to myself anyway, Jack. I'm very good at it.
The scorer on the team.
Mark Keane.
Spot on. There was, I'm just counting.
Mark actually was involved with the Limerick Minors this year as a selector.
I didn't know that. No, well, I probably did, but it didn't cross my mind. I'm just counting here. There was 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there was 9 players that won 2 medals, and there was 5 lads then from 15 and 17 that won 2 medals. So hopefully we can get over the line on Sunday, and then the likes of Adam English and Ethan Hurley and them can look at retaining their title the following year. But
and we'll have the like of Vince Harrington and Liam Dennehy and those coming up as well. They were part of that squad.
Yeah. So first off, best wishes to the Camogie teams on Saturday. The juniors in action at 2:00 in Bruff, and then the seniors at 3:30 in Galway, and then on Sunday the under-20s in the All-Ireland final against Kilkenny at 1:30. It's bones of an hour and a half.
Just before we go there, Jack, the county leagues are now reaching the concluding stages. And there are a number of semi-finals in the county leagues. The leagues are running on the basis of you have the South Limerick Senior Hurling League. That is also the South Limerick Senior Hurling Championship.
Okay.
It doubles up. So they're down to the semi-final stages in a lot of cases, and there are football semi-finals down for next weekend. Some of the senior football semi-finals in the division, I think. The 2 football semi-finals are down for decision in the city. I think there's one in the west involving Ballysteen.
Hello, St. Kieran's, yeah.
St. Kieran's and Ballysteen. Why weren't you telling me about that, Jack?
We keep our powder dry around here now. I'm only just out of the bed.
Just to keep balance, Jack, in the podcast, Ballylanders are playing Galway in the semi-final in the south, and
Galway won all their games.
Just to make the point, Jack, also that Ballylanders are the holders of the South.
No, Ballysteen won the West in 2019, I think. But Ballylanders versus Ballysteen is the big one on. It'll be the first weekend of July. I'd imagine the Munster final won't make any difference to that, but I'll be just back from holidays, so we'll talk about that sooner time. But yeah, the best luck to all those teams.
We'll have to dedicate a podcast alone to that, Jack.
Yeah, we'll have a separate pod for that, because I don't think many people want to listen to this bar our own, if even our own listen to us at this stage. But yeah, we'll leave it at that. Very eventful weekend to look forward to. And a couple of weekends in a row. Like when we were first talking in 2020, you couldn't even get to a game. And now we have 2 Munster finals we're looking forward to in less than 2 years. It's just a huge turnaround, I suppose, for Limerick people and for people in general. But it's something to look forward to. It makes the week a bit shorter.
A big turnaround, Jack. There was no such thing as tickets for 2 years, and now they're fighting over them.
Yeah,
it's great.
They're definitely fighting for a right, but you will get a ticket. I think if you try hard enough, you'll get a ticket for any GAA game. I think it applies for anything. There was plenty of tickets popping up when I was below in Ennis on Sunday. I was offered a few of them if I wanted them. So just keep your ear out if you want a Munster final ticket for anything, or the All-Ireland final this Sunday. But we'll leave you with that. We're approaching that 90-minute mark. That's probably way too long. But again, a huge thank you to you, Matt. The best of luck to the 3 Limerick teams in action this weekend. And we'll be back next week to look back on the start of the Camogie Championship, the 21s All-Ireland, and a Munster final to look forward to. So thank you for listening, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Impression the game we get out with what you put into. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods, and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well, God, Johnny Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there